You're listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. She is passionate, direct, and sometimes a little sarcastic, but always gives you what you need to succeed in business. Now, here's your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 55, exploiting your productivity sweet spot to get the most out of every day. If you are an entrepreneur who wants to take consistent, massive, focused action in your business and life, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. My goal today is for you to determine how to exploit your productivity sweet spot so that you can show up as your best, most productive self in your business and life. I'm looking forward to bringing this episode to you because you're going to discover what components factor into your productivity sweet spot, strategies to show up as your best version of you in business and life, ways to stop setting yourself up for failure, how to recognize the energy vampires in your life, and so much more. So let's dive right in and get straight to it. I want to begin this episode by first reviewing my definition of productivity. For one, we have a lot of new listeners every single week, and I want to send out a special thank you for being a new listener to Productivity Straight Talk. And I want to catch you up to what our longtime repeat listeners know, and it is this. Productivity is investing your best time into your best activities. You see, this is how I personally define productivity. So when I'm talking about being the productivity specialist or about productivity in general on this podcast, I am always referring to how can we invest our best time into our best activities. You are not going to be productive all day, every day. However, if you invest your best time, blocks of focused, energized, distraction-free time into your best activities, the actions necessary for you to achieve those goals, you will be productive and be able to accomplish what matters most to you. Now, hear me clearly. The goal is not to be productive all day, every day, because what that does is dilute the definition of productivity. You see, every day is full of activities and tasks and meetings that do not exactly align with your goals. The goal here is to expand and to make as much time in your day productive time. But the truth is also, every day as a business owner, there's things that have to get done that simply aren't your most productive activities. And so I don't want you to confuse those tasks and actions with being productive. So just to confirm that we're all on the same page, productivity is investing your best time, those blocks of focused, energized, distraction-free time into your best activities, the actions necessary to achieve your goals. Many of you are caught up spending your whole days doing activities that are not your best activities. You know, those that are highest value activities that are closest to the dollar. Because let's be real here, as a business owner, a key performance indicator to the success of your business is the income revenue that your business makes. And if you want to take it a step further, it's ultimately the profit that your business has. So any other key performance indicator, they're great. I know that you want to make an impact and you want to serve more people and you may have a bigger mission. But for the doors to stay open and for you to serve those people and for you to have that big impact that you desire, your business has to be profitable. Because as a business owner, you have to maximize your productivity to maximize your profits. While your days may currently be spent on activities that aren't exactly aligned with your most productive activities, you will get better results showing up and working in your productivity sweet spot for 2 hours every day consistently when compounded over time, than just showing up sporadically when you feel like it or when the perfect situation happens for you. Everything that I teach is about how to create the consistency in your business. I would rather you have 2 hours every single day, 5 days a week, instead of a 6-hour sprint and then you're not productive again for another week. Consistency over time is the key to compounding the effects of being productive. When I speak with entrepreneurs and they tell me what their schedule looks like, they are literally busy all day long. There are not many high achievers, go-getters, and successful entrepreneurs that aren't really busy. But if I ask them what were they busy doing or what activities they did that actually moved the needle forward in their business, they generally have no clue. Now, that doesn't mean that they didn't work hard and they weren't exhausted at the end of the day. But the fact is that they were just in a reactive firefighting mentality. That means that they get caught up in the busy work. They showed up with best of intentions, but got beat up by all the things that had to get done and all the things that everyone asked them to do, and they just reacted. They reacted all day, every day. Now, I'm referring to they like someone else, but I know you're listening, and chances are you can almost totally relate. Does this sound like your days? Does this sound like most of your days? I totally understand. That is not the way to be productive or run a successful business. And my guess is that that's why you're here listening to Productivity Straight Talk, because you're looking for ways in which you can stop being the firefighter in your business, stop being reactive, and start being proactive. As promised today, we're going to be talking about exploiting your productivity sweet spot. Exploiting your productivity sweet spot is all about purposely going along with your natural rhythms, being authentic to who you are, and creating a schedule in alignment with your energy levels and natural tendencies so that you can show up as your best self for high-value activities and get the results in your business that you so desire. So, what components factor into your productivity sweet spot? I never thought you'd ask. Number 1, your natural tendencies. Stop fighting who you are. Are you naturally a morning person or a night owl? A fellow productivity junkie and podcaster, Mike Vardy, is a self-proclaimed night owl. And his saying is, he gets done the night before what others get done in the morning. I love this mindset shift because instead of saying you're always behind the 8 ball, you're late to the game, the early bird gets the worm, whatever those sayings are that totally put a negative spin on being a night owl, Mike Vardy is taking a stance and he's saying, well, no, actually, I'm getting done tonight what you get done in the morning. And that statement is so true. Time management experts may tell you that the early bird gets the worm, but if you have to fight an uphill battle to be a morning person, you're only setting yourself up for failure because you're battling against your natural tendencies. And it messes with your mindset too, because ultimately you're telling yourself that you should be able to do something that you're not currently doing. Now, I do want to say this with one caveat. If you're not a morning person because you're staying up late, and watching Netflix, surfing social media, not doing anything that's really productive, then maybe that's why you're not finding yourself to be a morning person. But if you're being really honest with yourself and you find that your most productive time in the entire 24 hours of a day is at night, then go for it. Go for it because your natural rhythms, your biological clock is telling you that that's the time that you're on. However, do not use this as a cop-out because what I find is people proclaim themselves to be not a morning person, but it really lies in poor habits of putting themselves to sleep at a decent hour. And that time that they're staying up at night, the reason they're not getting a good night's sleep is actually not productive time. So you need to be truthful with yourself and determine, are you a night owl or a morning person? Winston Churchill, one of the most successful and productive leaders of all time, took a 2-hour nap every day. Did you hear me? A 2-hour nap every day. Every day at 5 p.m., the Prime Minister of Great Britain would sleep for 2 hours. And he'd say that this siesta allowed him to get 1.5 days worth of work done every 24 hours. Churchill was a night owl and would often work through the night. In fact, he sometimes even held work cabinet meetings while he was taking a bath. Why? It enabled him to be most productive in his own way. Here in America, it's typical for us to work straight through the day with only short breaks for lunch and refueling with some food. In many other parts of the world, however, such as Spain, Greece, Italy, and the Philippines, 2 to 3 hour siestas during the workday are a commonplace. businesses actually close their doors so that workers can get some rest and take a nap. In France, workers take a 2-hour lunch. They may use this time to refuel and refocus and come back much more productive. While these lengthy breaks don't benefit everyone, could they actually benefit you? I had a guest on my show a few weeks ago who took a nap every single day and claimed she was able to get more productive work done in the afternoon post-napping. As an entrepreneur, you get to create your own schedule. So napping or not napping, staying up late, working early in the morning, it's all up to you, as long as you honor your natural tendencies. When you choose to work shouldn't matter because you'll naturally be more productive. I'll let you in on a little secret. I, from time to time, sneak in a nap myself. Or I just take a break and clear my head right in the middle of the day for maybe longer than I need than to just stretch my body and eat my lunch. Now, I do that based on the way that I feel and what my schedule looks like that day. So I'm inviting you to find out what works. And if you know what works and you know what your body needs, make sure that you're not scheduling appointments for a 2-hour block of time in the middle of the day. Or schedule your most important activities first thing in the morning before anyone wakes up in your house. Or get going when everybody's in bed. It doesn't matter when you're most productive as long as you're consistently investing your best time into your best activities. Productivity sweet spot component number 2, your working environment. If you really take a look at where you excel in certain work environments, ask yourself, do you really enjoy working in a loud hustle and bustle coffee shop or co-working space? Or do you desire quiet and uninterrupted, no distractions, everything must be turned off kind of work environment? I want you to determine where you get your best work done. What type of working environment do you require? Let me share with you a little story. So ideally, what people tell you is that you need to be in an environment where it's quiet, it's uninterrupted so that you can focus. But that simply isn't true for everyone. When I first started my business, I was working from home and I had just left a corporate job where I had an office and my door was often open to a large cubicle space. And when I came and worked from my home, I literally was the only one home all day. And so I would sit in my office completely quiet, distraction free. And I found myself so distracted, like literally I could hear the birds chirping outside. I could hear the delivery man coming by, like every little noise broke my concentration. So I was like, well, I felt like I could get in my zone almost daily in my corporate work job where it seemed to be a lot louder, a lot more distractions. So I tested out a theory and I went to a local coffee shop and I took my laptop and I sat in the corner and I decided to try and do my work from a coffee shop. And long behold, that is exactly what I needed. I needed all that white noise and hustle and bustle because my body and myself, I had been trained to create focus within a loud environment. Whereas when I was at home, every little noise or distraction really broke my level of concentration. So the first year and a half of my business, unless I was working in a client's office, I was literally building my business out in the corner of a coffee shop. He joked with me, the owner of the coffee shop, saying that he either wanted some equity in my business or for me to start paying rent because I was there so often. But for me, it was about finding the environment that really, really created that productivity sweet spot for me and not going with what I was told I should do, or I was lucky I had a home office that was super quiet, or you should be able to concentrate if it's quiet. I went with what felt right to me. Now, since then, I do require quiet, uninterrupted time for certain work. So this is another thing. There's only certain work that I would do at the coffee shop, and there's certain work that requires absolute quiet. And I have been more in tune with what the different environments I require based on the different types of tasks that I do. It is not uncommon for me to have a Netflix show going in the background in my office, not because I'm watching it, but like literally just for noise. And for some reason, music doesn't work for me, like the melody or the rhythm, like for whatever reason. But for you, It might be that you like to listen to music in the background, or you want white noise in the background, or you want complete silence. What I'm telling you here is that it's not a one size fits all when you're trying to find your own personal productivity sweet spot. But it's worth investigating, and it's worth doing like trial and error to find out where you work your best and where you work your best depending on what types of projects that you're working on. For those of you that are sitting at the kitchen table in your home, that's okay. But if the family comes home, you may need to change up the types of tasks you're working on to ones that require a lot less focus, like checking your email. Email checking isn't your most productive work, but it also doesn't often require you to be 100% focused on what it is you're doing. So working with the environment and situations that you have and making your routines match with that. I'll give you an example. I actually rented an office space for about 1.5 years. And so I got really used to being able to work with my own natural rhythms and create my own schedule no matter what I wanted. I recently, about 2 months ago, moved back into my home office and remodeled it. And so now I'm back here. But my son gets home at 3:30. And yes, I have the nanny pick him up. But between 3:30 and 4:30 before he goes to practice, this house is kind of chaotic. My dog is super happy he's home. My son's happy to see me. There's a lot of noise in the house because there's just more people. And at first, it just threw me for a loop because I had things planned for that time in the day. Well, it was quick for me to realize that I needed to adjust my schedule. So instead of fighting reality and saying it should be this way and I should be able to work, I often don't schedule anything that requires my focused energy between 3:30 and 4:30. And I'm certainly not scheduling client appointments between 3:30 and 4:30 because I'm not quite sure what's going to be in the house. Now, I'm able to schedule from 4:30 to 5:30 any appointments or calls or do any kind of deep work to close up my day, because now Eric's off to practice. So again, this isn't a one size fits all. It's not something that is forever. So as you heard, the coffee shop served me for a length of time. Having an office outside the home served me for a length of time. Being at home now and changing up my routine to ensure that I'm not trying to fight it and book my high value, high focus activities when my son's coming home. You really need to consider your workspace, not just where you're working, but things like your chair, your desk. Is it a standing desk, sitting desk? Your office setup. Are your files close to you for you to be able to access? Or are you getting up and walking away? Do you have things where you need them at arm's reach distance? Creating a work environment that supports your productivity sweet spot is essential. For me personally, I aesthetically like a very clean, brightly colored office that keeps my energy high. And so I actually put time and energy into designing my office into a place where I really, really enjoy and I get energy from looking around at the things in my office. Another thing that I did recently, and as I sit here and record this podcast, is I'm sitting on a huge yoga ball. So I've been on this yoga ball for about 3 weeks now, and I love it. Okay. So what happened was I had this gorgeous gray leather tufted office chair that I thought was amazing and beautiful. And it was. But it wasn't serving me because I was slouching in my chair towards the end of the day when I was tired and I was getting really bad back pain. So I researched it and I found this idea of active sitting. And so now I sit on a yoga ball because if I slouch, I'm literally going to fall over. And so it really forces you to use your core and sit up. This was just a minor tweak so that I can ensure I'm keeping my energy levels high, that I'm not leaving the end of the day with being sore and my back hurting. So that's just an example. Literally, if your office chair is causing you pain, you're not able to be your most productive self, nor in your productivity sweet spot. So let me ask you, are you really clear with what it takes for you to get in your productivity sweet spot? What is your preferred work environment? This is not something to skim over. I really, really think you need to consider where you're working. Because if you're working in an environment that does not support your productivity, you're always going to be challenged to find that focus and to get into your zone. So if you can go and make a simple change, and again, this isn't about going and renting office space. This could be about going to a coffee shop a couple days a week. It could be relocating your desk from the kitchen table to an alternate room in the house or a corner in the house. You need to get creative so that you are on your top game. Productivity sweet spot number 3, your time blocks. Are you someone that can work for 90 minutes straight or 3-hour time blocks? Or do you need to work in smaller, shorter time blocks such as 20 minutes? Now, for me, I'm a 3-hour girl. And I got to tell you, the Pomodoro technique does not work for me. And if you're not familiar with the Pomodoro technique, it's that you work for 25 minutes and take 5 minutes off. This is an extremely popular technique, but it does not work for me. So again, you need to honor who you are and what your natural flows are. I am a girl that can get into my zone and focus and get the work done for long 60, 90, or even sometimes 3-hour blocks of time, depending on what I'm working on. And I really recommend you also trying out the different levels. For those of you that have never worked for longer blocks of time, the idea of sitting down, distraction-free, interruption-free for that long of time might seem a bit intimidating and might even feel like it's not you, perhaps naturally. But I do believe that creating these time blocks and building up to those longer periods of time is like a muscle that needs to be exercised. So if you don't do this at all with regards to time blocking, then start with 20 minutes and then do that regularly and then build up from there. 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I have a really, really good episode on all things time blocking. So if you want to go deep into my time blocking techniques and how to actually make it work for you, that's going to be episode 11. So you can go back and listen to episode 11 about time blocking. Productivity sweet spot component number 4, your nutrition. Are you someone that enjoys snacking all day, or are you looking for 3 big square meals? You might think that you're supposed to eat a big, healthy breakfast to fuel you for the day, but if you feel gross and full and tired after a big meal, having a big breakfast will make you less productive and deplete your energy. Instead, a simple granola bar or yogurt might be your best bet. For me, it's a protein shake. While I'm not trying to give you any kind of health advice, perhaps experimenting with foods and how much food makes you feel good or energized and allows you to be able to focus will actually help you perform at your best. I personally realized that gluten and dairy was creating extreme exhaustion in my body, and specifically gluten. Once I would eat that, even if it was in the morning, I would get so very tired. And I've gone my entire life eating gluten up until probably about 16 months ago. So I do think that this changes throughout your life because I don't know that I was always sensitive to gluten and that it made me tired. But taking a step back and really analyzing like what fueled my body and what gave me energy was a big eye opener, because once I cut out gluten and dairy, I had a wealth of additional energy in my body. So this is not a nutritional advice. It's not any kind of recommendation. This is what's right for me personally. My family all still eats gluten, so it's definitely a per person choice. But what I want you to take away from this segment is it's worth taking a step back and asking yourself, is the food and drinks and what I'm consuming really fueling my body? I have gone on and off of coffee as well. Now, I went my entire adult life without drinking coffee up until about 2 years ago. And it was about a year ago that I stopped drinking coffee again. And then I just picked it back up about 2 months ago. So I have been on and off with coffee, depending on where I'm at in my life, if I'm utilizing it as a crutch to get energy, or if I'm just drinking it to get a little pep in the morning. Right now, for me, I'm drinking it in the morning because I enjoy it. I enjoy having a cup of coffee with my husband, and it gives me a little pep in my step in the morning. But I'm really, really cautious not to use it as a 100% crutch. Okay. That has been my journey. I want you to just think about when when you are at your best? When are you able to show up your best and have the best energy? Is it while you snack throughout the day, or is it 3 bigger healthy meals a day? Another big thing to consider here is how much water you are drinking. Every time I'm super focused on the amount of water that I drink, my energy level absolutely heightens and I just feel so much better overall. Okay, so that brings me to productivity sweet spot component number 5, your zone of genius, where you get your energy from. What moves my business forward and my zone of genius is different than everybody else's. And not just because we're in different industries, but because we're different people. If you are not a detailed person, you should not be doing detailed tasks for 60-minute blocks of time. You need to lean into what you are not good at certain times, but you have to be cognizant that when you do such tasks, that they will drain you. When you work in your zone of genius, those tasks give you energy. For example, if you're an extrovert, you gain a ton of energy meeting with other people and talking to people. Such communication fuels you. If you're an introvert, you typically don't gain energy from others, but wind up feeling drained after a lengthy time with other people. The same is true with the types of tasks you do in your business. Some will energize you. Others, like energy-sucking vampires, identify which type of tasks affect your energy levels and how. Even if you're good at tasks such as bookkeeping, if it drains your energy, it's probably best to delegate it out if possible. And if not, it's best to do draining activities during periods of high energy, not when you're already low on energy and would become totally depleted. You probably may not even realize that you keep putting such tasks off on the back burner and rolling them over day after day, week after week. That reason is because perhaps you are simply trying to complete those tasks during times that you are already low in energy. For draining tasks that you can delegate, do so sooner than later. They're not your high value activities and they drain your energy. You have no business doing them if someone else can and you can afford it. Also, don't load your day with tons of activities and tasks that drain your energy. You have to space them out and switch off between activities that increase your energy and those that may be depleting your energy. You simply can't work in those tasks all day long. It's exhausting and simply not sustainable. Let me give you an example for myself. So once or twice a month, I meet with my content manager for a block of 6 hours where we go deep and create content literally for 6 hours straight. Now, that is a marathon session, but it's something that her and myself are really able to do. I'm able to do it in the moment, but I am cognizant and aware that I should not be scheduling anything else during that day that takes my focus or high energy level. So for example, you won't see any other client meetings on the schedule that day. You won't see actually any meetings on the schedule that day. And perhaps when I'm done, all I'm doing is going through my emails and processing them and getting myself caught up for the next day. I really, really need to be aware that I have to be at my best self when we're meeting for that 6 hour block of time. And when we're done, I am mentally and physically exhausted from that 6 hour stretch of continuous work. So to wrap up this section, I just want you to be aware of your own natural tendencies of what gives you energy and what depletes your energy. And this could be situations, it could be the way you interact with people, and honestly, very much has everything to do with the type of tasks that you're putting your time and energy into. So definitely be aware of this and lean into your productivity sweet spot. And that brings us to our last productivity sweet spot component, number 6, high value activities. Now, it is very true that even though we are all different and we have different zones of genius, as entrepreneurs, your best time is spent in 3 buckets. The 3 buckets that I recommend all entrepreneurs need to be spending time in is their sales bucket, marketing bucket, and servicing your clients. Now, Everyone here is at a different level in their business. So perhaps you have now delegated out your entire sales bucket, but you as the entrepreneur and business owner are ultimately responsible for the results and leading that team member or team in sales. So I want to explain the 3 buckets briefly and let you know that generally when an entrepreneur and business owner is looking for what their high value activities are, the ones that move the needle and grow the business, the activities are going to be in one of these 3 buckets. First of all, marketing. So marketing it's marketing and visibility. Any task that has to do with letting the world know what it is that you do and how you service your clients allows you to fill up the second bucket, which are sales. And this is very, very specific. Sales are having sales conversations, asking for the business. So this could look like a consultation, a discovery call, an appointment with a potential client. It is the actual act of asking for the business. If you're not asking for the business, then it lays in the marketing bucket / visibility bucket. Once you have had the opportunity and you are in your zone of genius and your high value activities of sales buckets, then you get the opportunity to service your clients. And this also looks very different from industry to industry and business owner to business owner. But the bucket is still the same. There is some way in which you're servicing your client, be it literally servicing them with a particular service that you sell, or it's coaching, or you're creating content to have a training online, or you're coaching them. Whatever that looks like in your business, a high value activity is actually servicing your clients. So how do you fill those buckets up is going to be different and totally up to you, but they should be full of your high value activities. So when you want to get really, really clear about what a high value activity is or isn't, honestly, if it doesn't fall in one of those 3 buckets, it falls in the 4th bucket. Can you guess what that 4th bucket is? The other bucket, the busy bucket, all the things that it takes to run your business, but generally don't move the needle. So take a moment and think about what your day looked like yesterday. No, really, think about it. How did you invest your time? Did you invest a focused amount of time in any of those 3 buckets? What were those activities and what were your results? If you can't say yes, that you actually invested time in one of those 3 buckets yesterday, then look at your past week. Did you invest a considerable amount of focused time in those 3 buckets? If the answer is no, you need to do an overhaul on what you consider your high value activities if you had thought you were doing it right by yourself. You need to get really clear on what your high value activities are so that you can work in your productivity sweet spot more often and see the results you desire. Stop living in that 4th bucket, the other bucket, and start devoting more of your best time into your best activities. So to recap, exploiting your productivity sweet spot is all about going with your natural rhythms, being authentic to who you are, and creating a schedule in alignment with your energy levels and natural tendencies. So you can show up as your best self for your high value activities and get the results you want in your business. And this is by no means a cop-out saying do whatever you want. I am not saying that you should be laying around Netflixing all day because you feel like it. Laziness may be your natural tendency, but that is not showing up as your best, most productive self. And this also means, how are you showing up outside of your work? Your productivity sweet spot with your spouse, kids, family, friends, community, and how you're investing your time with those people. It goes back to balance, and you can listen to episode 53 for more on obtaining the entrepreneurial balance, that elusive balance. You can't say that you value service and community when service and community is nowhere on your calendar. Where your heart is, your time should be also. Lastly, you need to hold your productivity sweet spot sacred to get the most out of every day. You know it works, so it has to be the rock in your day that can't be shoved to the side just because something goes wrong. Maybe you've determined that you're a night owl who works best on a full stomach in a private office with a messy desk while listening to classical music. Good for you. That's your productivity sweet spot, but it's only going to work if you hold it sacred. So if you have a 60-minute time block to be super productive today, settle right down into your sweet spot and get to business. Don't negotiate with yourself. Don't waste time getting started. Show up at 100%, and then the rest of the day can go however it's going to go. But at least you got 1 hour of needle moving work done for your business. And before we close out today, I have something special for you. I want you to stop screwing your productivity. I have created a download with the top 10 ways entrepreneurs screw their productivity without even knowing it. So go download Top 10 Ways You're Screwing Your Productivity at theproductivityspecialist.com/screw, SCREW. Once you download the PDF, you can click on any of the ways that look like you may be screwing your productivity, and it will link out to resources to help you stop screwing your productivity today. So go download that by going to theproductivityspecialist.com/screw. I have loved having you listen to this episode of Productivity Straight Talk, but I need to be straight with you. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So based on what you learned today, what are you willing to take action on? What gave you an aha moment? What gave you permission to work in your own productivity sweet spot? No guilt, no shame, no wondering why it feels different for you than other people. What do you uniquely need to be in your own productivity sweet spot? Based on the different components I shared with you today, I would love for you to select one component that you want to take action on and improve and show up in so that you can be your most productive self. If you want to go deeper on this topic and ask me questions about maybe something unique to you or anything about your productivity sweet spot, join me on the inside of the Productivity Straight Talk private Facebook community. On Wednesday morning, I'll be going live at 9:30 Pacific Standard Time, where I will be covering this very topic. I will be sharing with you what my own productivity quirks and sweet spots are, and letting you know maybe some other things that were not addressed in this podcast episode. If you're not already a member, you can go to productivitycommunity.com, leave me your name and email address, and I will send you a personal invite link. And if you've enjoyed this episode, I would be so grateful if you would share it with another entrepreneur who you feel would find it valuable. Give them the gift of improving their productivity to maximize their profits. So that's my straight talk for you today. And until next time, have a productive week.